Mr. Jackson in that state previously. He will tell you that Michael did not rehearse that day, that he sat. He will tell you that Michael was cold. He put a blanket around him. He provided him some chicken to eat. He massaged his feet to try to warm him. But that Michael ended up going home early that evening and not rehearsing because of the state, the physical state he was in. You also hear about the next day, June 20th, 2009. And what you'll hear is that there was a meeting called at Michael's house at 100 North Carrollwood. And at this meeting were Conrad Murray, the defendant, Michael, Kenny Ortega, Randy Phillips, and a discussion was had at that meeting about Michael's health, and more specifically about what had transpired the night before on June 19th. And what you'll hear from Kenny Ortega is that Conrad Murray evidently was Conrad Murray's area of expertise. He said things to Kenny Ortega when concerns were expressed. He said things such as, "I am the doctor, not you. You direct the show and leave Michael's health to me." He said, "Michael is physically and emotionally fine. Don't let it be your concern. I am the doctor." Following this meeting of June 20th, rehearsals did not take place that day, the 21st, or the 22nd, but they did resume on June 23rd, 2009. And you'll see footage of Michael performing on June 23rd, 2009. And by all accounts, it was a successful rehearsal at the Staples Center. Michael appeared strong, he was optimistic, and he was looking again. That's June 24th, 2009. And again, the rehearsal went well. Michael was engaged, he was optimistic. In fact, you'll hear from Kenny Ortega that Michael was excited because the next day they were going to be performing an illusion that was going to be part of the tour. And Michael always loved that type of magical illusion aspect of these shows. And so Kenny had told him that tomorrow we're going to do the illusion. And Michael was looking forward to coming back that next day to participate in that illusion. As you now know, he never returned to Staples Center. Following that rehearsal, the night of June 24th, 2009, Michael was taken home, and he arrived home at about 1 o'clock in the morning, which would be the morning of June 25th, 2009. What you'll learn is that it was customary that Conrad Murray would spend the night at the house, every night, sometimes only 6 nights a week, but his for being there was to put Michael to sleep with propofol. So when Michael and his security staff arrived at the house from Staples Center during those early morning hours of June 25th at around 1 o'clock in the morning, Conrad Murray's BMW was already parked in the driveway. Michael was brought into the house, security was debriefed, the customary routine was followed. Again, the house at 100 North Carrollwood, the front door that faces out into the front courtyard, a diagram which is difficult to see from this perspective, but a diagram of the entryway where I'm pointing down below would be where the front door is located. You come into this front foyer area. As to the relevant location of where Michael died, you would go to the left up these stairs, and you'd go into this foyer where I'm pointing here, into the bedroom where Conrad was actually Michael Jackson's personal bedroom, but that the propofol administrations occurred in this room here. From the foyer, it goes into the bedroom through a very large closet, the size of a typical bedroom, and then into the restroom. This view here is looking through the front glass doors into that foyer area, with the stairs I just described being here on the left leading up to this landing. And again, just a blow up of the diagram showing the relevant room where Michael Jackson received these propofol infusions, the foyer, the bedroom, the large closet, and the bathroom. This is a picture depicting the bedroom where Michael Jackson died. He died in that bed pointing down here below the slide. This picture is the closet I showed you on the diagram, and it's a vantage point of shown there, the clothes, and in fact, the jacket that Michael was wearing at his last performance that night on June 24th, 2009. As I indicated earlier, the question becomes what transpired then from 1 o'clock in the morning till Michael's death the next day. And before I relay to you some of the words of Conrad Murray as to his story of what transpired, I want to share with you what the independent investigation by law enforcement revealed absent Conrad Murray's statements. What you'll learn through phone records is that Conrad Murray was very busy on the phone that night. There are screenshots from the iPhone showing him receiving, reading various emails. There's text message. There's different screenshots showing various activities of Conrad Murray on his phone. There's a very relevant email that Conrad Murray receives. It's sent at 5:54, relevant for the substance. Because this email that you're viewing on this screen is an email from the insurance broker in London that is trying to collect medical records so that they can have the tour properly insured. And Conrad Murray's asked specific questions about press reports relating to Michael's health and that it's required in order to get the insurance. And Conrad Murray responds by his own email on June 25th at 11:17 a.m. And what he says is that as far as his health published by the press, let me say they're all fallacious to the best of my knowledge. This is on June 25th, 2009, just days after the meeting, month and a half after the May 10th recording, and Conrad Murray represents to the insurance broker that all concerns or press reports about Michael's health are fallacious. We also know through the phone records what was taking place that night. And we have the early morning phone calls, which will be, Murray indicates he provided propofol. We have a 10:14 a.m. phone call, a 10:20 phone call, a 10:34 phone call, an 11:07 phone call. We then go to an 11:18, 32-minute phone call to Conrad Murray's business in Las Vegas, followed by a brief message to one of his female friends, Bridget Morgan, at 11:26. A call with Robert Russell at 11:49, and then a call at 11:51 with another female friend, Sade Anding, who lived in Houston, Texas. And you're going to hear from Sade Anding, and what she's going to tell you is that she was working as a cocktail waitress in Houston. She met Conrad Murray, they exchanged phone numbers, and that Conrad Murray referred to her as his girlfriend. What you'll learn from the nature of this 11:51 phone call is that this is like, it won't reveal to you the time of Michael Jackson's death, but it may reveal to you when Conrad Murray first noticed Michael Jackson had died. Because what Sade Anding tells us is that this 11:51 phone call took place, that she was speaking on the phone when she realized there was no response on the other end. Conrad Murray was not communicating, was not participating in the conversation. Sounded as though the phone had been put down. She heard a commotion. She eventually hung up. She tried to get back in touch with Conrad Murray, but was not successful. She indicated that this occurred about 5 minutes into the 11:51 phone call, so about 11:56, 11:57 a.m. is when the phone goes dead and she no longer is able to communicate with Conrad Murray. At 12:12, we have a phone call from Conrad Murray to Michael Williams, and a return phone call from Michael Williams at 12:15, downtown Los Angeles. But he receives this call, I believe he's in the shower, at 12:12 p.m. And you'll hear the recording that Conrad Murray leaves on Michael Amir Williams at that time. Getting this message that shows up on his phone at 12:13, Michael Amir Williams calls Conrad Murray back immediately and is told to get here right away. Mr. Jackson had a bad reaction. He's not told to call 911. He's simply told to get there right away from downtown Los Angeles to 100 North Carrollwood in the Holmby Hills area. Michael Amir Williams makes a number of phone calls and eventually gets a hold of Alberto Alvarez, who is at the location. Alberto Alvarez is a security guard. He's part of Michael Jackson's personal security. They actually were housed in this trailer to the side of the house. Alberto Alvarez being on site, Alberto Alvarez goes into the house and eventually goes upstairs. He goes up these stairs shown in this picture, gets up to the landing, and proceeds into the bedroom, where he sees what appears to him to be Michael Jackson's lifeless body on the bed. Conrad Murray is giving CPR with one hand while Michael lay on the bed. Alberto Alvarez observes a condom catheter. He didn't know it was called a condom catheter, but he observes some device and tubing coming from the penis of Michael Jackson. What the medical experts will tell you is this is a device to collect urine when you're literally knocked unconscious for surgical procedures. This is what he sees on the body of Michael Jackson when he comes into the room and sees what he appears to be, to him, a dead Michael Jackson. Conrad Murray begins instructing Alberto Alvarez immediately upon his entry into the room and tells him, grab a bag, the saline bag, or the bag hanging from the IV stand in the room. Alberto Alvarez does so. And Alberto Alvarez notes that it was actually a bag that appeared to be clear in nature, and it had a bottle inside of it. A bottle that we later learned to be a propofol bottle. Alvarez complies with the requests of Dr. Murray, and what we know is subsequently this is corroborated by law enforcement, because when they go back to search the house on June 29th, they find a bag, and inside that bag is an empty saline bag, which you'll see in court, but it's slit open from top to bottom. And inside that bag, you'll hear from the coroner investigator, they found this 100 milliliter bottle of propofol inside the bag. And you will hear testimony about the significance of that when the medical experts come in and explain it to you. And he immediately does so. And what you'll learn is that 911 call was made at 12:20 p.m. What you also learn from the evidence is that phone call was not made at 11:56 or thereabouts, when Sade Anding had heard the phone go dead and heard commotion in the background. That 911 call was not made at 12:12 p.m. when the defendant called Michael Amir Williams to say there had been a problem. That 911 call was not made at 12:15 when Michael Amir Williams returned the call and spoke to Conrad Murray, who only relayed to him that he needed to get there right away. The 911 call was instructed to be made by Conrad Murray at 12:20 p.m. Now, emergency response was on the scene immediately. However, it was altogether too late because Michael was already dead. Got on scene on top of the patient at 12:26 p.m. His pupils, Mr. Jackson's pupils, were fixed and dilated. There was no pulse noted by any of the paramedics on scene. Murray had indicated he felt that Jackson had been down only a minute. I was just talking to him. Although no one felt a pulse, Murray claimed he did. This was not felt by any of the emergency medical personnel on scene. And when specifically asked, what have you been giving him? What has he taken? The paramedics were told lorazepam. Specifically asked what had been administered. They were told lorazepam, and Conrad Murray never once mentioned the administration of propofol during his entire dealings with these emergency medical personnel. He wanted to take over responsibility and that he would accompany Mr. Jackson in the paramedics' rig, and that was agreed upon. So they transported Michael Jackson to UCLA. In this photo here is the paramedics' arrival to UCLA. This is actually Conrad Murray here in these loose pants and a white t-shirt. Nearby, I believe, is some of the security, Fahim Muhammad, Alberto Alvarez, Michael Amir Williams, and this is them entering UCLA, the emergency room area. When they enter into the emergency room area, obviously the emergency room doctors now want to know what transpired. So they inquire. Both Dr. Cooper and Dr. Wynn specifically ask Conrad Murray, what has he been taking? What have you given him? He indicates he had been taking Flomax and he'd had some Valium. The only agent he gave him was lorazepam. And never once